Ross, I want to thank you very much for your time tonight. It is great to see you.
Great to be with you, Liz.
So this is a little bit of a preview of an event that is actually going on as we speak at the time that people will be watching this. And so I see that you have surprise celebrity guests, and I would like to know who they are.
Well, they wouldn't be surprises, but we're looking forward to, we already know that Alan Cumming is going to be emceeing along with Laura Linney. John Benjamin Hickey, Tony Award winner, is going to be there, and we're looking forward to others.
This is your biggest event of the year. I've actually been to these in the past. They're quite lavish. You've got thousands of people, and I expect that you are trying to blow through the $1 million mark. That's generally where you are, right?
Yeah, we've already done that. We will raise over $1.2 million tonight, and more importantly, get to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Pride Agenda and get the best anniversary gift of all, which is being able to celebrate the ability of all loving, committed couples to be able to marry here in New York State. And we're going to be thrilled to salute Governor Cuomo for his leadership in that role and presenting him with our Douglas Jones Leadership Awards, the first time it's ever been given to an elected official. So we're very excited about the evening.
Yeah, and also you're going to be having, I think there had been some speculation that some of the other folks who had been pushing for many years, Senator Tom Duane, for example, Assemblyman Danny O'Donnell, were not being recognized. But they will be recognized in your video tribute, is that right?
Oh, absolutely, yes. They're going to be there this evening. We're thrilled to have them. There are so many people to thank, frankly, that if we had everybody on the stage, we'd need 4 stages. But we are using the video and some other ways of recognizing all the great partners we've had, including the people you've mentioned.
So it's really been a banner year for you guys. As you mentioned, you got marriage, and you and I have spoken a little bit in the past about what comes next for you. And $1.2 million, how are you going to split that up, and what are you going to use the money for going into a pretty crucial election year?
Well, for one thing, of course, it's important to make sure we defend our wins. Everybody who voted for marriage will be up for re-election next year, and so we need to be ready to stand by those who stood by us. So that's an important piece of work going forward. You also know the important work that we have been doing around transgender civil rights in New York State. Getting a statewide non-discrimination law passed, for example, as 15 other states have done, to keep transgender people from being fired from their jobs and kicked out of their homes or even denied service in a restaurant simply because of who they are. Also transgender health care, Medicaid coverage of that, making sure transgender people can get the right gender markers on their IDs. And then more broadly, and also very important, is dealing with our health and human services. You know, just because we have marriage doesn't mean that there aren't LGBT homeless youth being bullied, elders worried about their dignity in long-term care facilities, and even, you know, just LGBT people that are going to face insensitivity when they go to doctors or therapists. So this important work continues. There's still a lot to do.
Ross, before we get to the political part for 2012 on gay marriage, I do want to ask you about the transgender issue. I mean, it seems to me that that's a little bit of a harder sell because it is a less mainstream sort of lifestyle, particularly with young people. I mean, it's hard to say that someone doesn't know anyone or isn't related to someone who is LGBT, right, or at least gay, lesbian or gay. But transgender, a little bit perhaps not as mainstream. Has there been polling on that, similar to the polling on gay marriage?
There has been. I mean, I think you're right. I think there is some challenges, and that's going to be an important part of our work of making sure that transgender people and those who care about them and work with them are able to tell their stories. Luckily, the polling is very good. 78% of New Yorkers have said that they believe there should be a statewide transgender non-discrimination law. And in some ways, this is, you know, maybe more challenging than marriage, but in other ways it should be easier. 15 other states have passed this kind of law. So New York is way behind the curve.
Yeah.
Where on marriage, you know, we became the 6th state.
Yeah, but when you talk about but when you talk about Medicaid, I mean, just recently you had a Medicaid advisory committee that was thinking about maybe covering transgender surgeries, right? That would be sex reassignment surgery and other subsequent follow-up from that. And when the New York Post got a hold of it and reported on it, immediately that committee turned right around and dropped it. So it seems like that's a challenge, particularly when it comes to the more conservative segment of New York.
It actually wasn't the committee that dropped it. It was the commissioner of the Department of Health who stepped in and sort of took it off the table prematurely.
Right.
And certainly that just shows that there is work to do. The American Medical Association has said this is medically necessary health care. And it's also cost-saving for the state. You know, if you give somebody hormones or the other health care they need up front, that means you're not going to have to cover the negative health outcomes that can happen when they don't get that health care, like suicide or depression or substance abuse. So it's not only medically necessary, it's good health policy, and it's cost-saving to the state. So we're going to continue working on it, but clearly you're right, there's work to do.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the politics. First start at the state level. We've already seen the National Organization for Marriage. There has been also a lawsuit first challenging the gay marriage law. There is at least one clerk that I know of upstate who refused to personally issue the licenses, and then she's up for re-election, which is sort of seen as a rallying point for folks who were opposed. And also already we're seeing these billboards throughout districts of those 4 Republicans who voted yes, but crossing the line and voting yes. So how are you guys protecting them? I know there was a fundraiser to raise $1.2-ish million to help them, but so far I haven't seen any pushback from the yes side.
It's early. It's still a ways to the election. You can be sure we are not going to have our win go undefended. So we're aware of what we need to do. I mean, the good news in this marriage fight was there were so many New Yorkers, particularly non-LGBT New Yorkers, who became invested in this fight. Our database has grown by about 70,000 people. That was from a general mailing we did. So those are mainly non-LGBT people who cared enough to respond to a mailing and send in a postcard and say, yes, I'm on your side. We're now going to be able to reach out to those people come next election and say, hey, you know, there are people trying to take away this thing that we all believe in. So we're going to be doing all the work you traditionally do. Yes, we're going to give to candidates. We're going to be volunteering on campaigns. We're going to be educating voters. We're going to be getting out the vote. All those things that you do, that's democracy in action.
And also a new focus on DOMA, right, the Defense of Marriage Act at the national level. You know, what's interesting about that is obviously you're taking things to D.C. now and the push down to Washington. However, you've also got a presidential election and a president who has not come out in favor of gay marriage. Do you believe that that is possible before the election? And it would probably provide a very much needed bounce for him, wouldn't it?
I'm with you. Yes, I think it would. You know, this president has talked about evolving on the issue, which is great. I think what a lot of people have recognized is that the main thing the president has to be concerned about is not necessarily his opponents. He needs to be worried about his base and those people who voted for him last time remaining involved and being excited and showing up to the polls. And as we saw here in New York, I think is equally true in the nation. This is now a core bedrock issue, equality and marriage equality, a core bedrock democratic issue. This excites young people, it excites progressives, and it actually just excites your regular run-of-the-mill Democrat. And so I do think there's actually a real rejuvenation that can happen for the president if, in fact, he embraces this fundamental issue of equality.
Well, I know a lot of people are lobbying him on it, but do you believe that it's possible that he would, because there is also that sort of conservative center to middle place where people are, where independent voters might be, that he doesn't want to alienate either. I mean, those are the people who really swing the vote one way or another.
Yeah, my question is, are there any of those people in the middle who would vote for him but for his support of marriage equality? I don't really see that happening. I think the people that are against him are going to be against him. Maybe this, you know, further upsets them. But the majority of the middle road Americans, they care. We know what they care about. They care about jobs. They care about the economy. They care about a lot of things. This one, if anything, I think they're on the side of live and let live. And even if they are sort of lightly opposed to it, this isn't going to be the thing that makes them turn against this president.
See, that's interesting, because to that end, you know, this is the one area where the governor is getting celebrated for his progressive social values, right, Andrew Cuomo. But also, subsequently, he has also had deep cuts to health care. It was his DOH commissioner, the health commissioner, who put the kibosh on Medicaid coverage for transgender sexual reassignment surgery and subsequent health care. I mean, he seems to be banking on the fact that he'll be able to keep that base, which might be unhappy with him, with other things that he's done, simply by hanging his hat on this very big, admittedly, thing. Do you think that's going to work?
Well, I absolutely think it'll work, but I don't even think it's about his base. I think it's more about where New Yorkers are. I mean, first of all, the governor knew, as everyone knew, that this was an issue that shared 58% support. That's not just your base. That's a lot of people. And he has seen his numbers go up since voting for marriage equality. And I've heard the governor talk about this himself, and I imagine he'll talk about it tonight, that this is a plus for him. This is a political plus. And that is not just with his base. That is with average, everyday New Yorkers, which, again, is not a surprise to us. We know they understand about fairness, they understand about this issue, and they're concerned about a whole range of things, not just this.
Ross, just before I let you go, recently the governor, it was last week, I believe, he had sort of a private discussion with some folks that was hosted by the New York Times, not actually listed on his public schedule, but he was there, and he made a statement that I think that some folks who were opposed to gay marriage felt very upset about, and they now want an apology. He said he felt it was anti-American to oppose the legalization of same-sex marriage. Do you believe that these folks have a right to an apology?
Anti-American, I would talk about what I have been talking about. I know where New Yorkers are. I know New Yorkers are good people, they're fair people, they believe in a fair shake, they believe in live and let live. That's why when we went into this marriage equality fight, we were able to do that so strongly. We knew the people were on our side. I think that's all the governor was trying to get to, the idea of he knows that New York is better than discriminating against one set of families over another. He knows America is better than that, and I think that's all he was trying to get to.
Yeah, a little bit of an unfortunate choice of words, though, perhaps, but I think the sentiment certainly he has been expressing for quite some time. Well, good luck tonight. And congratulations on 20 years and a really productive year. Ross Levi, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Liz.